My name is and I'm the Managing Director of Company Network, the Biodiversity in Good Company Initiative, and we are very proud to have Saraya on board. Our platform for companies was founded already in 2008. It was driven, first of all, by the German government together with companies, and the idea was to have a business and biodiversity initiative on the CBD level. It was the first kind of these platforms on the CBD, and it was a kind of role model for all the initiatives that are now coming up. And at that time, Germany had the presidency of the CBD, Japan had the presidency afterwards, and Brazil before. So some German, Japanese, and Brazilian companies came together and formed this pioneering initiative. And nowadays, our initiative is company-driven and not publicly funded anymore, and we are very, very happy to have some of the founding members still on board. From a business perspective, I think that biodiversity or biodiversity management for most companies in the world is a very, very abstract word, an abstract concept. And I love these presentations very, very much because they show that biodiversity is done in the field, by work in the field. It requires many, many steps for company to make biodiversity happen or to repair damages that have been done, for example, in our supply chains. And in our network, there are very, very large multinational companies, such as Volkswagen, for example, which is much, much bigger than you are. And our smallest member company has, I think, a staff of 15 people. So Saraya is a medium-sized family-run company, and it is not at all common that these kinds of companies engage in such a way. There are many companies who are aware that, for example, palm oil causes trouble and causes lots of problems with the monocultures. But of course you can do well as a company without doing anything about that. And so what this shows is that also in very large companies, but also at Saraya, it is not the company as a system that brings forward the solutions, but it is always people behind that. There is somebody in a company, it's for example the CEO or it's a sustainability manager, that really feels affected when in the media there is some news which accuses you of doing something bad. There are many companies who just wait, because normally these crises goes away after a time. Sometimes you have a loss of your earnings, but this is not always the case. So it's not common that a company engages in this way. And what is very important in a company like Saraya is that Saraya is very aware that it has connections in its supply chain with some problems for biodiversity, which is, for example, palm oil monocultures. Palm oil has a very good efficiency given, you can say so, given but it causes many problems in certain areas. And so it is important for companies, and that's part of the core mission also of our network. It's very important to engage in these kinds of projects, but at the same time to try to influence the overall discussion. And Saraya does this by being a very early member of the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil. And the company is also aware that, of course, this Roundtable cannot solve all the problems, but you're engaging there. And this is our message also to the companies who are in our network, who sign a leadership declaration. We want them to do something in their core businesses, as far as they can do this, and to engage on these conferences. And if you have a look at this COP, there are some businesses, some of our member companies are here, such as Fujitsu, Aleph, Japanese member companies of ours. We are very proud of it, because it is part of your political communications to be here. Many are not here. So I congratulate you to your work, and we are very proud to have Saraya on board with this concrete action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Because you say such a sweet word.
No.
Saraya. Yes. But also, not only us, but some companies after years joined to this Borneo conservation, Borneo Elephant Sanctuary. Maybe Mr. Aoki can show some example, like I said, clean beverage types or other companies that joined.
I think it's very important to cooperate with big companies to small companies. In this case, in the WLC case, Taisei Kansas Corporation, this design is very much. Also, the financial cooperation was done by Kirin Village, and others, such as those companies. We always try to find other companies to cooperate with us to keep this environment for the future, not for just for living Borneo, but for our future, the human and others. I think the city is very lucky to have these countries such as Saraya as a corporation, and UN also have the world today. But still we need to get more cooperation from companies to individuals.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I have to introduce Mr. Hino, who is the Taisei Kansas joined to this meeting too. And also we have the Mr. Utami-san from Fujitsu. Maybe this is an opportunity that you as a member of biodiversity company, what is your kind of activities or what your plan or whatever Fujitsu do?
Thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak. My name is Mitsuru Kitami from Fujitsu Limited in Japan, Tokyo. And since 2000,
Speak up a little bit.
Yeah.
Since 2008, Fujitsu has participated as a member of business and biodiversity, so-called biodiversity in good company. So we think Fujitsu is one of the good company on the biodiversity. And we can have many support by this initiative because we can get many best practices. For example, Saraya practices and education practices and so on. And we would like to, in future, we would like to share with each other our best practices. For example, this has translation. It has some activities in the preservation through the ICT technologies. ICT can save the preservation, of course. So we would like to make the collaboration with many companies, of course, Saraya and so on. Of course, in global. So our initiative is one of the member of global partnership. The global partnership is very important for us. The discussion, in yesterday's discussion, what is the mission of a global partnership? I think the global partnership, the mission of global partnership is to share the experience and to share the information and with the best practices. So the next step, we'd like to go into the global partnership and let's make the next step.
This is right.
Yes.
This is right. The global partnership is quite young. The CBD founded it about 3 years ago. And they will also set up a website as a portal where the best practices can go in on a global level. And this is what we want to do. We want to give your best practices into that platform as well. Once it really works, this website is being set up, and so we will do that. It's very good. Yeah, and I think also what is important, or what we have had from the very beginning, our biodiversity company was the leadership declaration. Companies who join us, they sign it. They sign an obligation to really care for biodiversity in their management, and they have to report on what they are doing every 2 years. All the companies in our network have reported, and you can see the reports on what they're doing on our websites. And this is really pioneering because biodiversity is quite a new issue for most of the companies.
And by the way, I would like to introduce the Aleph. Aleph is a big donkey in Japan who makes food for hamburgers and so on. He's a member, likes to protect the environment in Hokkaido. And also Sumitomo Trust is also a member, and we will do some collaboration too. I think that they will come to India as a part of this session.
Yes. We will have a side event on the 15th. The day after tomorrow in the evening, we'll have a side event where you can listen to the examples of the companies in detail.
Yes.
This is very interesting because Aleph presents something about farming methods and biodiversity in the agriculture, whereas Fujitsu will present something concerning assessment methods. What can a company do to assess its biodiversity relations?
Yes, I think this is another field that we may talk in some other day, but like growing, for example, shrimp.
Yeah.
And then some in the past they just culture and they abandon once the sickness happens. So I think I also can input something creative too.
Yeah, right.
Yes, and also Rosli, you mentioned about tourism. Tourism is very important, but sometimes it is you have to be careful in the way that how you introduce the tourism, and also how you connect to the people from other countries or other people who enjoy biodiversity. We have any further talk or opinion, and also I would like to welcome some of the opinions from the floor too. Would you talk about your thoughts about tourism a little bit more?
Actually, it's about tourism. It's a community-based tourism. Tourists are only those activities, nice activities. So we have a number of people coming here. So I think, of course, we need to really careful on the tourism activities, especially how to manage the impact of the environment. So like our program, actually we have rules and regulation, of course, for the visitors coming. So we distribute this information every time. And other than that, also we do the monitoring system, whereas the community itself doing the qualities, and our wildlife monitoring and wildlife distribution, and also we do the that kind of things. And also we have the database management, that we all of this information we put in the database. So in the long run, so we can see, we can analyze the data, what is impact from the tourism activities in the long run. So of course, for me, the tourism need to be very careful on the carrying capacities, and how to manage and how to reduce the impact on the site.
I also observed Rosli is very keen on the culture, on things. He doesn't like big hotels to be built in the center, but rather, local. But in a very innovative way that you have a good shower, you have the good clean bed. However, it has to be matched with the local culture. So I think we should be innovative in a way that match both sides. Do you have any opinions or any questions from the floor? Yes, please.
Hello, I'm Chad Peter from the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums.
Zoo and aquarium.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So I'd like to congratulate you for this exciting project. I think it's really good when I see the private sector work with NGOs at addressing issues, especially addressing issues in the supply chain. I think it's very interesting. I had a question about Asahiyama Zoo. Is anyone here from that institution? Is anyone here from that institution?
Yes, Aoki-san knows.
Okay, I just had a question regarding what exactly was the role of the zoo in the project, because you did go into any detail in that perspective. And secondly, what type of content do you have to reach out to the visitors of the zoo and aquarium? Because people coming to visit the zoo might be interested in that kind of project and what role they play. And I was wondering if they talk about that.
Well, basically the Asahiyama Zoo is the most famous zoo in Japan. It's located in Hokkaido, in Asahiyama. But Asahiyama Zoo itself is not directly related to this project actually.
Okay.
The director of the Asahiyama Zoo, Mr. Genbano, is very keen on this project.
Okay, so
it's kind of a huge individual project.
Okay, so the zoo isn't actively as an institution, no.
So it's owned by the city of Asahiyama.
Right.
It's kind of lots of bureaucratic.
It can be difficult because it depends on the nature of the zoo. Some are able to work a lot in the field, some have to go through, as you say, a local government, and it takes a lot more time to get the approvals.
But I observed the BCTJ work with Mr. Director Bando to have, for example, a seminar in Osaka to make ongashi project. They did on the project.
Okay.
And then there are, like 20-30 people came to the inauguration from Asahiyama, Hokkaido to this place in Borneo. So I think there's a bit enthusiasm. Some of the citizens donated their time to design the cages, which is sustainable after the translocation. So I think there are lots of interest created by BTCJ for the normal citizens to participate by giving, also there's a kind of secrecy, but in the start, BTCJ put some pressures to Asahiyama Zoo to install the dispensers of ocha tea bed model just in front of the most popular place in the zoo. So that to impress the other, and he didn't get involved and get interested in the project. So I think there are some ways that they are being crazy to get attention.
I just remember one thing that after Mr. Genbano started this project individually, then 1 year, 2 years later, at the whole as a humans we just started environment education with palm oil. The zookeepers going to the local school, they just keep people the education about palm oil, what's happening.
Okay.
It's very easier to get attention to among children to show that elephants. So which is I think it's good to know what is happening. Not in the zoo, but in actual place that elephant lives.
That's even better, but unfortunately it's not available to everyone. So it's
communication is very important. Yes, please.
I have two questions as well, because I really don't know. First, when you attend sometimes the roundtable for sustainable palm oil, are there potential partners for this kind of project? And the second question is, would it make sense or not to try to integrate one of the big conservation NGOs in the world to scale it up? Or do you say, no, it's better to have a local project with local partners?
So second, first, RSPO, of course we are the member, we try to work on the criteria or we work on the communication. As a matter of fact, I think now there will be this was the president from Unilever. Was the president. So there will be some places that they can say, there will be some places that we want them to qualify. Then in a sense in Japan, I organized 3 symposiums. Are there representative persons on the website? They said that they use RSPO. As a matter of fact, they satisfied with using RSPO. But our point is that how the wildlife actually saved. So as I said, this is very important. Do you have any opinion that for example, this green corridor can be enlarged in a larger scale, or is that a question? Or?
Yeah, in a way, does it make sense? Because as I see, it's a huge land. The corridor is huge. It's a mega corridor. So do you have enough strong partners, or are you looking for further partners?
Actually, it's for the inner water and green corridor. Actually, there are 2 sides. One in Laufa, from our place, our village, to Bangkok. The new one is coming out from our village to Afshin, the river, to restore the European forest reserve. This renew is from the R&D class, but this one still in the negotiations process, workshop and everything. So, of course, the conservation work in Abatanga, we support lots from the local and also international NGOs. But in our case, because we are just a small community, so we can support on any initiative that they introduce, especially on the conservation perspective.
One time when we started the project in 2006 or 7, Tsubochi calculated with local people that the money is like 100 million US. Now it's 200 something because the land has been rising. Then I was also Cyril Kinzok was the Secretary General of BCD there to Malaysia Palm Oil Council. Because there was a tactics that we invited Yusuf Baslam, who is the president of NPOC, to a second symposium. Then we had a connection. Then I brought him to the NPOC. Then NPOC had some budget, and then they give us VCT research on was the right $160,000 US good money to start with. And the research project, they want to their members simultaneously some good money from state to renovate the rehabilitation. So the industry is coming a bit closer, and as Rosli said, some of them are starting to donate some of their land.
Especially with the home care patients. Because now they recently just announced they will bring back all the land that has been bought for years. They will bring back the government. So it is about 20 meters. We're talking about 20 meters for the new land. But our mission is actually we try to provide about 500 meters, but it's still in the negotiation process. Because there's a lot of money
Place for the private.
20 meters is not the requirement is not standard. But for one time, already now 50 meters. It's very good. Since we start taking back the land, the hectares,
It's a huge project, but things are starting to do better than noticed.
and last month we had a meeting with Saraya Rosli Jukrana. The director of the they really push and now they really spread give the message to all the big projects and the politicians to give it back all the land, otherwise they will be bring to the public. So this action our government now taking for the requirements. So our project will support on the planting project to provide the seedlings and to provide technical support. We are now speaking about almost 15 years in the forest restoration project in Borneo, so we are on the expert planting and swamping forest area. So this what we can contribute to the restoration of the natural reserve of the wild corridor along the Pyeongchang.
These are things that change, and I think action. One more question. There is none. I will just in this November 13th, we will have fourth symposium after Singapore. Mauritius is also gathering Sunday from NPOC is here. I think I hope the momentum of the industry John,